Hello everyone, I'm Shweta Yadav, Assistant Professor of Zoology in Government College for Girls, Sector 14, Gurugram. Today I'm going to deliver this video lecture as part of e-content development program under the aegis of Directorate of Higher Education, Haryana. The topic of my lecture today is larvae of echinoderms and Aristotle's lantern. So let's start. Echinoderms are unisexual animals, and we all know that these are invertebrates. But they do not exhibit any sexual dimorphism. So since they are unisexual, that means that the males and female reproductive systems are present in different individuals. But there is no sexual dimorphism. So that means that both males and females, they are externally alike, so we can't differentiate between males and females by their external appearance. And in case of echinoderms, the fertilization is external. So that means both males and females gametes, that is sperms and eggs, they are released in the surrounding water where fertilization takes place. Echinoderms are deuterostomes. So that means that in case of echinoderms, the blastopore give rise to anus and mouth is formed on the opposite side. And talking about the cleavage is radial, holoblastic and indeterminate. Holoblastic cleavage means that the zygote and blastomeres, they are completely divided during the cleavage. And indeterminate cleavage means that the fate of each embryonic cell is not predetermined. It is not fixed and it can be altered. So each cell has an ability to develop into a complete embryo if they are isolated. Okay. In case of echinoderms, the development can be direct or indirect, having larval stages in between. So if the development is direct, then there is no larval stage, and if the development is indirect, then it includes larval stages. The larvae, they hatch in water, feed and grow through successive larval stages to become adults. The larvae of echinoderms are bilaterally symmetrical. So that means that the right and left halves are mirror images of one another. But they lose their symmetry during metamorphosis, and the adult echinoderms, they acquire radial symmetry. The different classes of echinoderms, they show structurally different larval stages. So here in this slide we can see the different classes with their larval forms. So there are 5 classes, each having their own larval forms. First class is class Asteroidea. There are 2 larval forms, Bipinnaria and Brachyolaria. Class Ophiuroidea, it has the larval form Ophiopluteus. Class Echinoidea has the larval form Echinopluteus. Class Holothroidea, it has 2 larval forms, Auricularia and Doliolaria. And class Crinoidea, it also has 2 larval forms, Doliolaria and Pentacrinoid. So these are the classes with their larval forms. Now let's discuss the larval forms one by one. First is Bipinnaria larva. It is the first larval form of Asteroidea. It is a bilaterally symmetrical, free-swimming pelagic larva. So as you can see in the diagram, the pre-oral region is elongated while post-oral region is quite broad. The anterior end of the archenteron, it develops as mouth, whereas the blastopore becomes the anus. It possesses two ciliated bands which are known as the preoral and postoral bands. The postoral ciliated band appears to be longitudinally placed and forms a complete ring between the mouth and anus. The preoral and postoral ciliated bands are continuous over a series of prolongations called arms. The following are the names and the number of arms developing from preoral and postoral ciliated bands. There are two posterolateral arms, two postoral arms, two posterodorsal arms, two anterodorsal arms, two preoral arms, and one ventromedian and one dorsomedian arms. The anterolateral arms are absent and the arms are provided with muscles and are contractile in nature. The body of Bipinnaria larva is externally bilaterally symmetrical, but subsequently the internal structures assume asymmetry. And this larva is a free-swimming and free-feeding larva. And after a short span of time, it transforms into the next larval stage called Brachyolaria larva. Brachyolaria larva is regarded as a modified form of Bipinnaria larva. It possesses the following characters. There are three additional arms which are not ciliated in their course except in Bipinnaria papilla. These arms are called the brachiolar arms and they help in temporary adhesion. The three short arms are at preoral lobe, one median and two lateral arms. These arms are devoid of calcareous rods and have extensions from the coelomic cavity. With the help of adhesive structures, it attaches to some object. The anterior portion acts as stalk for some time, while posterior part having gut and coelomic chambers convert into a young starfish. This then detaches itself and starts leading a free life. Next is Ophiopluteus larva. Ophiopluteus is the only larva of Ophiuroidea that resembles Echinopluteus larva of Echinoidea in general features. This is the larval form of class Ophiuroidea, which includes brittle stars. It possesses long arms with ciliated bands at the margin, and its features are as follows. It has two anterolateral, two postoral, two posterodorsal and two posterolateral arms. Out of these, posterolateral arms are formed first and are the longest and directed forward. The postanal part of the body is quite well developed. Larva consist of coelomic chambers and archenteron, and there is no attachment stage. The free swimming larva, it metamorphoses into tiny serpent star which sinks to the bottom to begin its adult existence. There is a single larval stage in Echinoidea called Echinopluteus. It is a microscopic free-swimming larva of Echinoidea. It resembles the Ophiopluteus larva, where the only difference is that it has more arms. This larva, it shows ciliated bands which are developed into arms. The fully developed larva consists of 6 arms which are supported by calcareous rods and its tips are pigmented. As you can see in the diagram, the posterolateral arms are very short and directed outwards or backwards. The locomotion is by ciliated bands which in some cases become thickened and they are called epaulets. There is no attachment stage and metamorphosis is extremely rapid, which takes place in about an hour. Next is Auricularia larva. Class Holothroidea demonstrate two larval stages, namely Auricularia and Doliolaria larvae. Auricularia larvae is the first larval form of Holothroidea. It is a transparent, free-swimming, pelagic larva of about 0.5 to 1 millimeter in length. In it, the ciliated bands are well developed and it swims about by a ciliated band which forms pre-oral loop and an anal loop. Alimentary canal is developed which opens with mouth and ends with anus. Internally, the larva has a curved gut with sacciform stomach, hydrocele and right and left somatoceles. Next is Doliolaria larva, which is the second larval form of Holothroidea. It is a transitional stage from Auricularia larva. As you can see here, it is barrel shaped with continuous ciliated band which breaks into 3 to 5 flagellated rings. Mouth is shifted to anterior and anus to posterior pole. Metamorphosis is gradual, during which it acquires 5 tentacles and 1 to 2 functional podia. So this is the reason that sometimes it is also called as Pantectula. After appearance of more tentacles and podia, sea cucumber settles to the sea bottom and lead an adult mode of life. Doliolaria larva is found in some sea lilies. It resembles the Doliolaria of Holothroidea, but it has an adhesive pit on the ventral side, with which it attaches to substratum and becomes sedentary. This larval resemblance demonstrates close evolutionary relationship between Crinoidea and Holothroidea. It has an apical tuft of cilia which are sensory. On the midventral line near apical plate, adhesive pits are present over the first ciliated band. Between second and third ciliated bands lies stomodium or vestibule. Skeleton also develop at this larval stage. After swimming for some time, it develops a stalk. Larva now attaches itself and internal organs rotate to 90 degrees from ventral to posterior position. Larva forms a stalk and is now called as cystidian or pentacrinoid larva. And this after some times metamorphoses into an adult. Now, what is the significance of these different larval forms of echinoderms? After studying each larva in general, it is seen that all the larvae, they show some fundamental resemblances. For example, all the larvae are bilaterally symmetrical, all the larvae are free swimming except the Crinoidea larva, which is sedentary. They all have a flattened body, longitudinal ciliated bands, antrocilic coelom and mouth and gut. So with so many common features, it can be said that they all share the common ancestor, which was coelomate, bilaterally symmetrical and free swimming. Other than this, these larvae, they also show resemblance with Tornaria larvae of Blanoglossus. Thus, the study of echinoderm larvae has a phylogenetic significance. So now coming to our next topic, that is Aristotle's lantern. The term Aristotle's lantern, it refers to the mouth apparatus of sea urchins and sand dollars, which belong to the class Echinoidea. Now this is a complex structure composed of 5 jaws made up of calcium plates, and these plates, they are connected by muscles. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. He studied, experimented and wrote many textbooks about the natural sciences, and one of these books was called Historia Animalium, or the history of animals. Aristotle described the mouth parts of sea urchin in this book, and in his book, while describing the masticatory apparatus of sea urchin, he wrote, "In reality, the mouth apparatus of the urchin is continuous from one end to the other, but to outward appearance it is not so, but looks like a horn lantern with the panes of horn left out." The term lantern is used as the structure resembled horn lamps used at the time of Aristotle, and in these lanterns triangular panes are used to make the lantern. So during Aristotle's life, horn lanterns had 5 sides. Being marine animals, the main flora urchins consume is the algae. So in order to eat algae, an animal must have a way of either cutting the macroalgae into small bites or scraping the microalgae of its substrate. So sea urchins, they have Aristotle's lantern that can perform both these tasks. So it is used to scrape algae off rocks and other surfaces, as well as for biting and chewing the prey. The mouth apparatus is capable of retracting into the urchin's body as well as moving from side to side. So during feeding, the 5 jaws, they are pushed out so that the mouth opens, and when the urchin wants to bite, the jaws come together to grip the prey or algae and then can tear or chew by moving their mouth from side to side. The top part of the Aristotle's lantern structure is where new tooth material is formed at the rate of 1 to 2 mm per week. At the bottom end of the structure, there is a hard point called the distal tooth. Although this point is rigid, it has a weak outer layer that allows it to sharpen itself while it is scraping. And it surrounds the esophagus at its origin. So this is all about the Aristotle's lantern. Now we will discuss some questions which can be asked in the viva, or they can be asked in the theory also. So first question is, in which group of animals Aristotle's lantern is present? It's very simple, as we have already discussed that Aristotle's lantern, it is found in sea urchins and dollars, sand dollars, which belongs to the class Echinoidea of phylum Echinodermata. So answer is Echinodermata. Second question is, Aristotle's lantern is used for, there are 4 options: excretion, feeding, reproduction and defense. So we have already discussed in the lecture that Aristotle's lantern, it is a feeding apparatus. So answer is B, feeding. Third question is, how many calcium plates are present in Aristotle's lantern? So there are 5 calcium plates which are there in the Aristotle lantern. So answer is C, 5. Next question is, echinoderm larvae shows, option A is radial symmetry, B option is bilateral symmetry, C is asymmetry, and D option is spherical symmetry. So the answer is bilateral symmetry. In case of echinoderms, the larvae shows bilateral symmetry, while the adult forms, they show radial symmetry. Okay, so answer here is bilateral symmetry. Next question is, Asteroidea contains the larval forms. Option A is Bipinnaria, option B is Brachylaria, option C is both, and D option is none. So as we have already discussed that Asteroidea class, it has 2 larval forms, Bipinnaria and Brachylaria. So answer is C, both. Next question is, Doliolaria larva belongs to the class. Option A is Echinoidea, B option is Holothroidea, C option is Asteroidea, and D option is none of the above. So answer is Holothroidea. Okay, Doliolaria larval is a larval form of the class Holothroidea. Next question is, different larval forms of echinoderm signifies their, option A is relationship with chordates, option B is common origin of classes, option C is both A and B, and D is none of the above. So as we have already discussed that different larval forms are similar, they have so much similarity, so that means they have a common origin and they also signifies their closeness with the chordates. So here the answer is C, both A and B. Next question is, which one of the following is not a larval form of echinoderm? So option A is Tornaria, B option is Bipinnaria, option C is Brachylaria, and option D is Ophiopluteus. So we know that Bipinnaria, Brachylaria and Ophiopluteus, these all are the larval forms of Echinodermata. Tornaria, which is option A, it is the larval form of Blanoglossus, which is a hemichordate. So here the answer is option A, Tornaria. It is not a larval form of Echinoderm. Next question is, Auricularia larva belongs to the class. Option A, Echinoidea, B option is Holothroidea, C option is Crinoidea, and option D is none of the above. So Auricularia larva, it belongs to the class Holothroidea. So answer is B, Holothroidea. And the last question is, Ophiopluteus is a larval form of, there are 4 options, Ophiuroidea, Holothroidea, Crinoidea, and option D is none of the above. So Ophiopluteus, it is a larval form of Ophiuroidea. So answer is option A, Ophiuroidea. So this is all in this lecture. Thank you.